This is Newark. This is Newark.
So my name is Nathan Duguid. I am a sophomore at Rutgers University Newark. I am majoring in sociology. I'm an HLLC Scholar as well. I am the founder and president of the Young Voters Association, an organization destined and whose mission is to motivate young people to participate in their democracy, both local and at the state level and nationally. And outside of that, I'm an opinions columnist with the Daily Targum, with a column Young, Black, and Political. I run open mic nights. I'm a MC. I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I'm an educator. I'm an activist. But most importantly, I'm just someone who wants to enact positive change in my community, whatever community that may be.
Who are you collaborating with in terms of the Youth Initiative program?
So a big initiative that I'm working on is Vote 16, the movement to lower the voting age to 16 years old for school board elections here in New Jersey, but nationwide and even globally, right? So there are many levels of collaboration. In the city of Newark, we've collaborated with the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, with organizations like the GEM Project, like the Jersey Bee, many schools, high schools, even middle schools around the city and around New Jersey. And we've also collaborated with a lot of individual stakeholders that have helped run events in certain spaces, that have helped with outreach, that have helped with advertisement about this great thing called Vote 16. And as you go out of Newark, as you go out of New Jersey, we have even more partners across the nation with Vote 16 USA connecting to its chapters all across. Vote 16 New Jersey being one of the most influential and significant of that. But this is also a global movement. Very recently, Vote 16 was passed in the UK for all of their elections. And so this is something that transcends just our community. It's bigger than just Newark. It's bigger than New Jersey. It's bigger than America. But humanity is realizing that having youth at the center of our democracy, having youth at the center of our political discourse is going to be something that brings us into an era of positive change.
Okay. All right, bro. What is the goal as far as the effect that you want to see with your program, and what are some ways you've managed to see progression in terms of awareness for the program?
I would say that one of the biggest goals for Vote 16, which is really at the heart of any progressive movement. And when I say progressive, I don't mean in a partisan way that progressivism must be left or right, but rather advocating for change, advocating for something that is different. At the heart of it lies a need for something new, but also for something new that can be sacrificial at times. There needs to be an infrastructure change, and that's my goal for Vote 16. Because as we advance voting rights to young people, we start to see certain things that restrict them, certain things that confine them, certain things that suppress them from getting to the polls. But even before getting to the polls, when it comes to them registering, when it comes to them even having the knowledge of what's going on, there are a lot of systemic barriers that we see. And these are all things that we've seen amongst adults as well. But they 10x when we're dealing with young people who are going into this for the first time. And so it highlights the fact that there needs to be infrastructure change. We need to be able to have conversations about maybe different ways of voting, more accessibility when it comes to getting to the polls, when it comes to registering, and when it comes to voter information, right? So a big goal of mine and a big goal of the movement of Vote 16, but the grander, greater suffrage movement in the US and beyond is infrastructure change, infrastructure evolution when it comes to how we participate in our democracy. When I think of progression, I will say that the awareness of something like this has grown a lot, and not just awareness in terms of inhuman, dispassionate advertising, billboards and ads and just throwing information out there, but real people-to-people conversations have been happening where at first someone may hear something like Vote 16, 16 and 17-year-olds voting. Everything you can think of comes out. They're too immature. There's a slippery slope for other policies. They're going to vote for things that don't make any sense. All of those things come together. And when we're able to have real conversations, when we're able to give the real research and real understanding, both scientific and sociological understanding of how a policy like this, how a movement like this makes sense, people start to understand, people start to be more open to new ideas. And I think something like this, being able to touch people regardless of political aisle, regardless of political party, regardless of conservative or liberal or somewhere in between, it has brought a great progression to how people, young and old, participate in their democracy. And I think the support that we've got from those people has been a great mark of our progress.
Okay, and this is a question that's not on the actual list. I know that you spoke on Ras Baraka. You said that he was backing this program, or he was kind of like at the head of it to a degree. And I'm wondering, when it comes to the mayor, like backing this type of program, especially with the amount of support that he has in Newark, do you feel like his support has kind of helped like those adults kind of curtail their opinions so that they're more involved or believe more in the Vote 16 movement?
Yeah, I would say that having the support of someone like Mayor Ras Baraka, having the support of the entire council, and having the support of someone like Governor Phil Murphy, having the support of many folks that are seasoned politicians is always going to be helpful for any movement. But I think it is true that it has helped us tap into some of the older folks or the more seasoned folks that when they first hear Vote 16, they're immediately opposed. I think it definitely has helped with visibility. It's definitely helped with access in terms of having conversations with certain people about how to get this done, not just in theory, not just so it looks cute, but actually making new and more accessible, more sustainable infrastructure around voting.
And I would like to move it to something a little bit more broad. This is a topic that I don't think can really be solved in one conversation, but what aspects of Newark do you believe need to be changed? And do you think these aspects can be changed without gentrifying the neighborhoods?
I think you're definitely right to say that it's not something that can happen in one conversation. I think one thing, like I've been talking about, is definitely how people in a place like Newark interact with their democracy. There's a lot of apathy amongst people, not just in Newark, but in urban communities across the nation. Our voter turnout is laughably low, and that's just a blatant fact. On average, year by year, only about 3% of eligible voters are going to the polls for school board elections, for those elections around April, right? And even when it comes to these general elections, whether presidential elections, gubernatorial elections, or general midterm elections, we still have really, really low turnout. And the turnout doesn't seem to change because of the candidates or because of the policies that are being brought to the table, but rather there's an issue with, yes, voter suppression, but also the apathy around the culture of democracy, the culture of how people think of government, how people think of the people in government. And I think that's something that has to be changed. One, by policies that actually help people from communities like mine, but also in how we advertise those policies, how we advertise the great things that are happening. I think there's a lot of great things that are happening in the city of Newark. There are a lot of great ideas in the city of Newark. And these are things that are being put into practice. These are things that have been put into practice for quite some time, and so much so that we have the numbers that are evidence for how great and how much of an impact these things have left on our communities. So when we think of things like crime going down in massive droves, when we think of mental health crises being suppressed and being reversed, when we think of the water crisis, something like that in the city of Newark and urban communities nationwide being addressed and really helping low-income communities, helping Black and brown communities progress professionally, progress in terms of homeownership, progress in terms of education. All these things that are happening, we'll always be having conversations about how to get better. We'll always be having conversations about how historical barriers set us back and how we're going to address them. But as we address those things, I think it's important to make sure that people know who's addressing them, that people know who's doing these great things that are helping their communities. I think it's important that people understand what exactly is happening in their communities, because a lot of people don't know. And so they hold to a culture of apathy. They hold to a culture of being disappointed with their government when sometimes their government is doing a good job. And there are a lot of politicians out here that are doing a good job for their communities.
And where do you think that apathy comes from? Does it come from like the overall mistreatment of Newarkians over the last 50, 60 plus years of, the race riots in the 1970s, burned down the buildings, and then a lot of the, white people, it was white flight in Newark. Do you feel like it kind of comes from like that abandonment period where a lot of them were put in these projects and they're kind of left to rot to a degree, and a lot of these projects were torn down because of how dangerous they were? So do you feel like it's based on like just the overall treatment that they've had since they've been established in Newark, or like where's the apathy come from?
I think that apathy comes from a very, very full history of Black and brown communities being marginalized, being suppressed, and being promised things that were supposed to go to them, that were supposed to help their communities, and then ended up helping communities that were not their own. And I think it's important to recognize that. It's important to study the history and understand where that actually comes from. And I think it's important to address that in truth and in honesty, that the policies that people are trying to push to help those communities do so in a way where those people are the ones hearing about it, that those people are the ones that are out supporting, that those people are the ones that have a direct seat at the table when it comes to making decisions and having conversations about how those things are going to be put into practice. So that means Black and brown communities, that means young people, that means marginalized communities of all types and places should have those conversations. I think that's how we start to address that apathy, right? It doesn't change overnight, but it will change if we actually do what we're supposed to do. And that is participate in our local governments.
How do you think the HLLC has galvanized your ability to create initiatives like Vote 16, even though you didn't create it?
Yeah.
How has it galvanized you to kind of participate in these types of initiatives?
I would say that the Honors Living Learning community does a great job of centering our education in the place that we're in, which is Newark, New Jersey, but taking a global, sometimes detached view of our history, of sociological study that we're usually given in academia, and really anchoring it in the community, right? Being a local citizen in a global world, if you will, right? Making sure that our understanding of global principles, our understanding of national history and understandings of sociological trends and phenomenon, understanding how to apply those where we are has been a very important and very significant part of the education that one gets being in the HLLC. And that's something that helped me understand the importance of anchoring myself in my community. Cherry on top, I'm from Newark. And so I have this passion, I have this need and desire to help the people that are just like me because they grew up just like me, right? Regardless of color and orientation and things of that nature. But there is a call amongst HLLC scholars, but all Rutgers Newark scholars, all college students, in my opinion, that it's important to take academia, take the understandings you're getting that are sometimes detached, that are sometimes so global or so national, and really anchor them in your communities. Vote 16 is a community movement. It is a movement that gains its power by determined and passionate young people in communities all over the nation, hopefully one day all over the world.
I think Dr. Eatman would mess with that response. So this is the last question to close. Do you have any messages for future leaders out there?
For anyone who aspires to be a leader in any capacity, I think the most important thing to remember is that you're not a superhero. You're not God, right? You're a human being who hurts. You're a human being who goes through things. And you're a human being that, though they want to advocate, though they want to make positive change, definitely does not know everything. And I think surrounding yourself with a great network of mentors, of people who've been around the block a few times, people who know what they're doing and know what they've done, will always help you. Always be accountable to someone. There's a lot of social justice warriors who aren't accountable to anyone, and we see how that turns out. So I think it's very important for all of us to maintain a good network of people, right? Peers, yes, and even people that you're mentoring, because sometimes people who are your subordinates can help you learn a lot of things as well. But making sure that you have a good network of mentors, a good network of people that can help you along this path will always make sure that you stay grounded in your resolve, in your mission, but also make sure that you can continue to grow. And I think one other thing is being entrepreneurial in any sense, whether you're trying to be a leader in advocacy and policy or in the business world, you should always make sure that you're valuing your brand. And your brand comes from something that you can bring to the table that's new. Something that you can bring to the table that people will recognize as valuable, right? So regardless of what you're doing, whether it's policy, whether it's athletics, whether it's just academia, whether it's anything, make sure you think about what you can bring to the table that's new. And when you bring that thing to the table, make sure that you're blending everything together. Make sure that you can be yourself in any space that you're going to, that you're not dividing yourselves and separating yourselves between things. Make it so that that brand that you create for yourself can exist in every movement that you find yourself a part of. And I think that will bring a power to the movements that you're a part of that no one else can replicate.